this being the end of Kali Yuga, for those souls not awakened and liberated from the ego delusion and the body identification, their world may end in a rain of bombs and missiles, as is already happening in many places. And it occurred to me today that what we are seeing in Gaza, that is horrifying many who are not touched by similar horrors in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world, are also having to face the fact that soon nearly the entire world will be Gaza. And it occurred to me that the pressure from the Arab and Muslim populations of all the countries of the region and beyond the region, like Pakistan, all would come under such pressure that at a certain moment the governments will not be able to resist entering in to attempt to stop the bloodshed by causing even more bloodshed and creating what will be perhaps a truly existential situation for the state of Israel. And their plan has always been very publicly announced, that they refer to as the Samson Option, in which if they realize or believe they're going down because of the rain of missiles upon them from too many countries to fight off, that they would unleash their nuclear arsenals and bring down as many with them as they could. And if this option becomes a realistic, in fact, a real event in real one, the spreading, the contagion of that wildfire of destruction will not be able to be limited. And as I was thinking of the Samson Option, I was remembering the great poem by John Milton called Samson Agonistes, which I'm sure you've all read. And with its famous phrase about Samson in the midst of his suffering, eyeless in Gaza. And it is Samson who is captured because of his loss of his strength and enslaved by the Palestinians, or Philistines as they were called then, and taken to Gaza as a slave. And there he had to face the intense agony of the root of his karma and his failure to fulfill his divine mission. And we are now, all of us, in the same situation, as Israel may become eyeless if attacked in enough force and be reduced to that final agonizing destructive acts. I went back this afternoon to read the poem, and I took out a small excerpt from it because I think it expresses in classical iambic pentameter the feelings of many who are in their Kali Yuga ego state, feeling too weak to complete their mission of overthrowing the rule of the demonic forces of darkness that have taken over the world. And that now is the last moment for us to be able to gather our strength, to gird our loins, to enter into the final confrontation with the ego and destroy all attachment to its sanskaras and its limited beliefs about itself and the world. And that in turn brought me back to thinking more about the Aghoris and what would it have to be like to be an authentic Aghori Baba in India and live in that way in the cremation grounds and eating whatever, including corpses, and being completely without reactivity of either desire or disgust or any kind of emotional reaction to anything, and having no fear at all or even interest in the death or life of one's body. One would have to be in that state that is totally dead to the sensory realm of consciousness, totally dead to that aspect of the self that is mortal because identified with the mortal organism and the mortal mind. One would have to be so totally dead that one could tolerate the most abrasive and noxious stimuli coming into the senses without it having the tiniest impact on one's consciousness. And one would have to be so absorbed into the bliss of the infinite self that nothing that could happen in this phenomenal hologram could have any meaning for one any longer, because all that is perceived is the presence of God. Because nothing else is real. And because in the world, if not already happening, as in places like Gaza, there are people involuntarily having to live with dead bodies around them, and disease, and every kind of filth, and horror, and the threat of sudden death. And would you be able to be in such an environment free of any kind of fear or reactivity and bring peace to all who were in your space? Because that is what we are called to do.